After I successfully conquered the infatuated female supporting role, Willow, I married her. Life after marriage, though occasionally filled with conflicts, was generally peaceful and happy. That was until I heard that the male lead had divorced. Willow cried on the rooftop all night. That's when it dawned on me. The fate of the infatuated female supporting role is to wait for the male lead to turn back, a destiny that no one can change. So, I gracefully exited the scene and left alone. When we met again, it was at my wedding with my fiancée. Returning to our country, Willow, who was her best friend, was also the bridesmaid at our wedding. Chapter 1. Anna and I returned to our home country to hold our wedding, but unexpectedly, she got into a car accident. I rushed to the hospital in a panic, and when I saw her with a flushed face, I angrily asked, "Why are you driving after drinking? Why didn't you let me know so I could pick you up? Don't you plan on getting married anymore?" Anna straightened up and leaned into my arms, pouting and acting spoiled. "Hubby, I was wrong. Okay, I thought you've been so busy lately. Besides, it was my friend driving. She wasn't drinking. Who would have known something like this would happen?" As soon as she finished speaking, there was a sound from the next bed. My fiancé yanked aside the curtain and said irritably, "Is she awake? Good. Then hurry up and tell my husband the truth. If he gets mad and doesn't want me anymore, you're dead." I sighed helplessly. Even at a time like this, she's still so carefree. Her friend remained silent. Anna glanced over, and just one look made her frown. She disapprovingly said, "Willow, what are you looking at?" Upon hearing this name, my heart tensed. Could it be? My body stiffened. I slowly turned around. The moment I locked eyes with the woman, my breath hitched. Willow, my ex-wife, the woman I once tried to conquer. Chapter 2. When I arrived in this world, the male and female leads had already developed feelings for each other. Willow was very depressed, and her grades had plummeted. I had to follow the system's requirements to conquer her in order to survive. For this, I used every means possible. She liked the male lead, a sunny, cheerful, and warm guy. So, I tried to mold my personality in that direction. Every day, I relentlessly tried to talk to her, bring her breakfast, surprise her on holidays. Even if she gently rejected me, I pretended not to understand, persistently following her around. But in reality, I was a quiet, introverted person. No matter how hard I tried to act, it was always superficial in the end. I once thought that conquering her was hopeless. Then one day, the system suddenly spoke. "Host, your conquest value has reached 100. Congratulations. You have obtained permanent residency in this world." It said that, then left. I couldn't figure out what caused my success. In my excitement, I still felt uneasy. I feared it was just a dream. Willow, sensitive as always, noticed my emotions. Under the sunlight, her smile was warm and gentle. She said, "George, just be yourself. I really like you." It turned out that she had already seen through the awkwardness and embarrassment I felt every time I threw myself into it. From then on, we became much more comfortable around each other. Without the conquering task, our feelings only deepened. After we graduated from college, we got married. Between work, we did chores together, watched movies together. A slow and steady life was the best way for us to live. One night, she received a call. On the other end was a low, despondent male voice. I knew who it was. The male lead, Makoto. He had divorced the female lead. Willow got up and went out, crying on the rooftop all night. Afterward, she quit her job and found a new one, leaving early and coming home late every day. It wasn't until I went to pick her up from work that I accidentally found out she was seeing him again. Willow had become Makoto's assistant. I couldn't tell if I was more sad or relieved. I thought maybe it was time for me to change my way of life. We didn't like to argue, so when I proposed a divorce, she didn't hesitate to agree. As for the division of assets, she voluntarily said she didn't need anything except what was rightfully hers. So, with the bonus from my successful conquest, I could say that I had gained a new life through her, without much of the struggle I had expected. I sincerely wished her happiness, and 5 years later, I found my own happiness. But fate had other plans. Willow is the best friend Anna mentioned before returning to her country. Chapter 3. The intensity of Willow's gaze on my face was too strong to ignore. Even Anna noticed something was off. She furrowed her brows, and her voice became cold. Anna asked, "Do you know George?" Hearing my name, Willow's lashes fluttered. Her pale lips lost even more color. But I spoke first. "Oh, we were high school classmates. We've met a few times." Willow's emotions quickly returned to normal. She propped herself up with one hand and sat up. Giving me a polite smile, she said, "George, long time no see." Anna's expression softened a bit, but she wrapped her arm around mine. She deliberately showed off the diamond ring on her finger. It was like she was declaring ownership or perhaps issuing a warning. She shot me a glare and said, "She's not as pretty as me. Stop looking at her." I couldn't help but laugh. The tense atmosphere gradually eased. I didn't look at Willow anymore. It was as if we were just strangers who had crossed paths a few times. Anna had just a few minor scratches. Nothing serious. After I finished the discharge paperwork for her, I turned around, and Willow was right behind me. Her right hand was in a cast, and she looked a little worn out. Chapter 4, I said. We'll talk about our past once Anna and I go abroad. Otherwise, with her personality, I pressed my fingers to my temples, feeling a bit helpless. Anna was someone who was very clear about her likes and dislikes. Her emotions were always written all over her face. She knew I had been married before, but she didn't know that my ex-wife was Willow. I was worried that if I told her now, it would cause conflict between the two of them, and it might even lead to more trouble. Willow suddenly spoke. Do you really like her? Her question caught me off guard. I hesitated for a moment and replied, yeah. It still felt weird talking about this with an ex. The air went silent for a moment. I had just stood up when a man's figure rushed toward us. He passed by me and went straight to Willow, naturally pulling her in to check on her. The man frowned and said, Willow, why didn't you tell me about the car accident? Is your hand injured? Is it serious? Will it affect your work? It was Makoto. Time had passed, but he was still as handsome and charming as ever, though now with a bit more maturity and composure. Willow gently pushed him away. She said, I'm fine. Makoto paused, and only then did he notice me. His expression changed slightly, but he forced a smile. He said, George, long time no see. I nodded, thought for a moment, and decided to explain. We just bumped into each other and chatted a bit. I'm back here to get married. He nodded and said, I see. He subtly let out a sigh of relief. Willow bit her lip, and her left hand, which was resting at her side, curled slightly. Chapter 5. That evening, Anna leaned against me while we watched a horror movie. The plot was so boring that neither of us was very interested. I wasn't sure whether I should tell her now, but Anna suddenly spoke up. She said, Let's not have Willow as my maid of honor. I inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief. I asked her, What's wrong? Anna nudged my neck with her nose. She said, She's injured. It's inconvenient, and it has bad connotations. It might even jinx our perfect love. I looked at her in surprise. You're so superstitious. She snorted. You don't understand a woman's intuition. She added, and the way she looks at you is off. If I weren't so sensitive, there'd be no need to continue calling her a best friend. I expressionlessly turned my gaze away. It seemed better to wait until after the wedding to talk about it. Anna had been living abroad for a long time. Now that she was back, of course, she wanted to catch up with her friends, but I didn't want to see Willow again. I barely went. Actually, when we first got married, hardly anyone knew. Neither of us liked attention, so we went straight to our honeymoon, treating it as a destination wedding. We didn't even show ourselves on WeChat. It was almost like we were secretly married. After being rejected so many times, Anna gave me a pitiful look and said, Hubby, just go with me once, please. Otherwise, I'll be so lonely. I raised an eyebrow. Aren't you afraid I'll run into Willow? She shook her head. I didn't invite her. She's just an old friend from high school. I don't know her. I couldn't resist her almost tearful look, so I agreed. When we entered the private room, sure enough, there were only unfamiliar faces. I relaxed. I listened as they joked about Anna's embarrassing moments. The atmosphere was warm and cheerful, until Willow pushed the door open. Makoto followed her in, looking like he hadn't stopped her. Chapter 6. When Anna saw that Willow came with Makoto, her expression softened a bit. Anna scolded. Your injury's not healed. Why are you running around? But Willow replied coldly. It's not my leg that's hurt, so why can't I walk? There was a hint of tension in her words, and, of course, when she said this, her gaze fell on me. The room fell silent. No one knew what was happening. Anna furrowed her brows, blocking Willow's gaze, and, holding back her temper, said, How did you know we were here? A voice from outside the door suddenly interrupted, full of mock reproach. Of course, I told her. That brat. I've invited you so many times, but you never show up. Now that you have a man, you don't need us old friends anymore. Huh. I tightened my breath. It was one of the few people who knew that Willow and I had been married. I looked up and locked eyes with Freya. She staggered in surprise. Her mouth dropped open. What the hell? George, it's you. Anna turned her head, her expression icy. You know him. Freya realized something was wrong and tried to cover it up. She stammered. We've met a few times. Just surprised. That's all. Haha. Anna's lips turned pale, her fingers gripping the corner of her clothes, her body stiff as a drawn bow. Someone tried to step in to smooth things over. Unexpectedly, Anna didn't press further. She said, It's too late today. We'll skip the next round. I'm going home with my husband now. I stood up and took her outstretched hand. Feeling her tight grip, I realized how angry she truly was. I kept a calm expression, offering an apologetic smile to everyone. I said, "Sorry, we'll catch up another time." Willow's gaze moved away from our tightly held hands. She seemed like she had been drinking, her eyes red. She said, "He's my ex-husband." Chapter 7. Her calm voice was like a spark falling into a powder keg. It ignited the anger that was already about to boil over. Anna suddenly yanked her hand away. She slapped Willow hard across the face, breathing heavily. She yelled, "Why are you bringing this up now? What are you trying to say?" Makoto stepped in front of Willow, frowning. "Anna, what are you doing?" Willow's still injured. Anna pulled her hand back and coldly sneered. "She's trying to seduce my husband. She deserves it." Makoto pointed at Anna angrily. "Are you out of your mind? What nonsense are you talking about? They're in the past. You all grew up together." Makoto glared at Anna, but Willow brushed him off. Her gaze moved past the crowd, landing squarely on my face. Our eyes met, and the calmness was gone. "It's not the past," she said. Her voice was soft, almost as if she were speaking to herself, but it was clear enough for everyone to hear. The room was deathly silent. Freya covered her face, unable to watch. Makoto looked at her in shock. His face turned pale, his lips trembling, but he still couldn't speak. Willow stood up and walked toward Anna. She ignored the swelling on her cheek, her eyes filled with a frustration I had never seen before. She bit her lip and said, "Trying to seduce your husband," she continued. "He was my husband. You're the one who ruined someone else's marriage." Anna, burning with rage, shouted, "Willow, go to hell." In the next second, she slapped her again. Each slap was harder than the last, although Willow's hand was in a cast, making her unable to fight back. She wasn't willing to give up, constantly cursing. The two of them tore into each other right in front of everyone. This time, Makoto didn't intervene. Freya rushed forward to separate them, her face full of concern. "Stop, Anna. Willow's still hurt. What if you make it worse?" When her attempts to stop them failed, she looked at me for help. "George, please, make your wife stop." I coldly smiled. I said, "Let them continue. It's better if one of them gets knocked out." Both of them instantly froze. Chapter 8. The cool night breeze carried the salty scent of the river. It helped to disperse some of the anger that was still burning inside me. I looked coldly at the woman across from me, still injured, her face now with new marks. I asked, "Are you sober now?" She said, "I'm sorry." Willow lowered her gaze, not daring to look at me. I almost laughed in disbelief. I said, "Is this apology what I wanted? I thought I made myself clear that day." I inhaled deeply. I thought we both understood it was best to avoid certain situations. I had tried my best to avoid this kind of thing from happening. But what did she do? I looked at the shimmering river, then took a deep breath. I said, "Willow, I really don't understand what you're thinking. Why make everyone feel so uncomfortable?" Her voice choked. "I don't understand either. Just like I don't understand why you could leave so calmly back then. 5 years, with no word from you." Willow lifted her gaze, and her whole demeanor seemed drowned in intense sadness. She said, "George, all these years, I've been wondering, did you really ever love me?" I was stunned. I asked, "Does it even matter to say this now?" She said, "I want an answer." Her moist eyes stubbornly locked onto mine. I glanced over at Anna, who was leaning against the car nearby. The wind picked up again, almost as if it brought her restlessness with it. Willow followed my gaze. The emotions in her eyes became even more obscure. I told her, "I once loved you. Later, you became my comfort zone, my habit, like bottled water, but it was never to the point where I couldn't let go." Chapter 9. Willow and I traveled to many countries for our honeymoon. When we arrived on a tropical island, the tour guide said it was a famous paragliding spot. This was a thrilling activity I had never tried before. The colorful arcs in the blue sky, accompanied by the cries of exhilaration. My heart raced, and my body started to heat up. I was eager to try it, but Willow grabbed my arm and said, "It's too scary. Can we do something else?" Yet her gaze never left the stunning view for a long time. I could clearly see the nostalgia in her eyes. Makoto had once shown me pictures of them growing up together. There was one of them paragliding when they were 15. I was curious. At that moment, was she afraid? Or was she secretly cherishing the unique memory they shared? Later, I understood. Love becomes profound through differences. Willow was an outstanding interior designer, but after we got married, she didn't get involved in the decoration of our wedding home. At that time, I had a friend who mentioned how particular his fiancée was about the details of their wedding home's design, and I thought it was hard to understand. But after Makoto's divorce, Willow meticulously helped him design his new place. Every night, as she conceptualized the room designs, her eyes sparkled with a joy brighter than stars. That's when I realized she was designing their home according to their preferences because she wanted to have a long future with him. Makoto's ex-wife, who was the female lead of this world, came to see me once. She looked at me with pity. She said, "Your wife spends all her time with the men she once loved for years, and you don't mind at all." When Willow found out about this, she explained the situation to me. She said, "That woman cheated on Makoto, but kept clinging to him, saying that since Makoto hadn't thrown away his things, he must still have feelings for her. That's why I wanted to help Makoto change his home." "Hubby, don't misunderstand." She rarely showed signs of panic. I spoke gently. "It's okay, I don't mind." Willow seemed momentarily stunned. "I truly didn't mind. I've always been a passive person. I measure my feelings based on how others feel toward me." Just like her feelings toward me and Makoto always fluctuated, with some parts lighter and others heavier. My feelings for her were also like that. When Willow's feelings for me were the strongest, I loved her. Gradually, love turned into a habit, and living a simple life together seemed fine. But now, I felt more like I was embracing the freedom of breaking free from the chains. Both the male and female leads could break free from the established path and choose a different life. Why should I continue living this boiling frog life just out of habit? When the comfort zone is no longer comfortable. When habits no longer serve life. When I realize that bottled water isn't irreplaceable like tap water, and it's not as refreshing as beer or soda. I knew it was time to change my way of life. On our 3rd wedding anniversary, Willow had prepared a special dinner. When she saw me return empty-handed, she just frowned slightly. She said, "Tonight, it's just the two of us." I have something to say. We were still in sync, as always. My heart raced, and my body began to heat up. Just like when I saw the paragliders, except this time, I would take action. I nodded and said, "I also have something to say to you." In her expectant gaze, I smiled and pulled out a divorce agreement. I said, "Willow, let's get a divorce." Chapter 10. What did you say? Because whoever looks at you now seems like they're about to fall apart. Anna casually squeezed my hand, seeming unconcerned. But her tone couldn't hide the underlying bitterness. I could tell she was upset, so I held her hand tightly. "Do you want to know?" I asked. The driver raised the partition without a word. She blinked, turned her head away, yet couldn't hide the sense of grievance in her eyes. She said, "Never mind. It wasn't convenient to talk in the car anyway." I glanced at our hands, tightly intertwined, unwilling to let go, so I decided to leave it at that. When I input the gate code, the chandelier in the center of the hall lit up. At that instant, Anna threw herself into my arms like a koala, hanging onto me and kissing me. Anna had always been the more passive one, but today her emotions were unusually intense. Her kiss was fiery and urgent, tinged with a hint of panic, as though she were refusing to wake up from a dream destined to be lost. So I lifted her up onto the entrance cabinet, and we deepened the kiss. After the kiss ended, the lights went out, and the room returned to darkness. The house was quiet, with only the sound of our intertwined breathing. Her hands were on my shoulders, trembling lightly, as though she was trying to calm her rapidly beating heart from lack of oxygen. Suddenly, I felt a slight weight on my neck. A cool sensation brushed against my skin. It was Anna's tears. I asked, "What's wrong?" She turned her face away, not wanting me to see her cry. After a long time, I finally heard her soft voice. She said, "George, you won't leave me again, will you?" Chapter 11. 5 years ago, after the divorce and leaving the country, the first thing I did was complete the paragliding challenge I had once hesitated to try. Due to lack of experience, I got a bit injured on my knee after the thrilling experience, but I couldn't hide the excitement on my face. Anna reached out and helped me. That was our first encounter. We were strangers passing by, but we had a pleasant conversation. She thought of me as another extreme sports enthusiast. After adding me as a friend, she shared many videos and photos with me. We occasionally went rock climbing, surfing, and skiing together. The few months we spent together were more exhilarating than the first half of my life. Anna introduced me to her friends, slowly deepening my sense of belonging to this world. Once, after we became familiar with each other, one of Anna's close friends teased, "I've known her for so many years, with so many people chasing her, yet she's never brought anyone with her like this. You'd better hold on tight." I didn't respond to that. My previous marriage wasn't a bad experience, and I wasn't opposed to starting a relationship naturally this time. One day, during a rock climbing event, the safety gear failed, and she got stuck midair. At that moment, I couldn't explain why, but even though I was almost hit by falling rocks, I swung over and saved her without hesitation. Maybe it was the suspension bridge effect, but she kissed me on the lips the moment I saved her. A fleeting kiss. When we landed, I followed my heart and formally confessed to her. Anna's clear eyes reflected my own image. After a long while, she said, trembling, "No wonder Gina said today was my lucky day." Chapter 12. After we got together, Anna was almost always around me. She memorized all my likes and dislikes and refused to let me interfere with her daily life. Even when we were briefly apart, she would report every little detail to me. Our friends often said that her thoughtfulness and care for me were almost inhuman. They couldn't imagine how a wild, adventurous girl like Anna could be so clingy in a relationship. But I was the only one who noticed Anna's hidden Yandere side. Her possessiveness was extremely strong, even to the point of obsession and madness. She couldn't even tolerate me having normal conversations with other women. But Anna hid it well. All the undercurrents of her emotions were carefully concealed beneath her gentle facade. Until one day, I accidentally found the diary she kept hidden in a drawer. It was filled with an overwhelming, intense love for me. She had even chosen to use pain to control her emotions. I once saw her in the bathroom, cutting her wrist, leaving streaks of blood. I had always been accustomed to reciprocating the same amount of emotion I received, but Anna's feelings had gone beyond my understanding. I couldn't keep up. Continuing down this path would destroy us both, so I broke up with her. Surprisingly, she didn't beg or harass me. The following year passed quietly, but every time I woke up in the middle of the night, I would recall the scene in the bathroom. People are complicated. We can't just accept everything, nor can we be completely selfish. Then, one day, I received an email from a ski resort. There was a graffiti wall there, and Anna and I had both participated in a one-year activity. The ski resort promised to send us updated photos of the graffiti wall every year. It was a promotional tactic, but also carried beautiful memories. I opened the email and stared at it for a long time. There were no traces of other visitors. It had become Anna's personal diary. The email was filled with detailed records of her life each week. She said she had listened to me and went to see a therapist. She said she had adopted a large orange cat and spent her free time taking it out to enjoy the sun. She said she had collected many rare horror films and hoped that one day, we could watch them together. She said her cooking skills had greatly improved, and her friends all praised her. She said her wounds had scabbed over, and she wouldn't hurt herself anymore. A lump seemed to form in my chest, making it hard to breathe. I wasn't sad when I divorced Willow. I wasn't sad when I broke up with Anna either. So why now? All of a sudden, the sorrow hit me after the fact, threading through my heart. It turned out, I missed her too. Chapter 13. I said, Anna, take a deep breath, and look into my eyes. She obediently followed my instructions. The warm yellow neon light from outside flowed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating her current helpless and fragile state, as if she were falling into an abyss. I cupped her face in my hands, speaking slowly, each word deliberate. It's precisely because I love you so much that I decided to wait until after the wedding to tell you this. You're afraid I'll leave you, and I'm afraid that because of my past, you'll hold it against me. Anna's wet eyes filled with confusion. She sniffled and said, You know I'd never think like that. I said, Of course I know. I knew her too well. She would only fall deeper into anxiety, constantly fearing that I would leave her, and at its worst, she might hurt herself again. All I could do was give her enough security. I said, But I don't want anyone to influence our wedding. You wanted to know what I said to Willow, didn't you? Anna tightly pressed her lower lip, lifting her head to look at me. I said, I told her I love Anna very much, and I hope you stay away from us. Don't try to sow discord between us. I asked. Now do you understand how much I love you? Her eyelashes fluttered, as if she had become shy. She weakly leaned into my arms, responding softly. I asked. Still worried? She nodded, her voice filled with grievance. Yes, I'm worried. I sighed in relief. This was what I got for indulging her, but I was willing to spoil her. I leaned down and kissed her cool earlobe. I smiled and said, So, shall we enjoy tonight properly? Anna trembled, and the next moment, my arm muscles tightened. I carried her back to the bedroom, patiently, again and again. I made her feel my love for her. Chapter 14. Makoto stood at Willow's door for a long time. The fatigue and sorrow were etched deeply in his brow and eyes. He sighed, raised his hand, and input the code to unlock the door. Today was Willow and George's wedding anniversary. The decorations inside were exactly the same as 5 years ago. A vase with freshly changed flowers, a chessboard on the table, unfinished, from a game George hadn't completed. In the closet, George's clothes were neatly hung. Willow naively thought that George would come back eventually, but he was about to remarry. What exactly was she still holding on to? Makoto walked straight to Willow's art studio. Willow had the lights on, absorbed in her drawings, not even glancing at him. The wastebasket was full, with several crumpled draft papers scattered on the floor. The food on the table was cold. She hadn't touched it. She was stuck in here, drawing day and night. Makoto finally exploded. He shouted, You're not going to the office. You're not eating. What exactly are you doing? Willow's eyes were deeply bruised, but she didn't seem tired at all. Her voice was filled with longing as she said, I'm designing the wedding home for me and George. Makoto froze. He remembered the pain of being betrayed when he had just divorced, with no one to share it with. When he snapped back to reality, he had already called Willow. To him, Willow would always be his safe harbor. Makoto knew that Willow had feelings for him. Unable to reciprocate them, he had always felt guilty. That's why, when George appeared, he genuinely wished them well. He told George about Willow's favorite movies and novels, and shared her hobbies to help him understand her better. He even invited the four of them to travel together. But when he heard the news that they were together, he realized that the smile on his face was starting to fade. A voice inside told him, "This isn't right." This subtle feeling reached its peak on their wedding day, when he saw the simple text on the WeChat moment. He felt a lump in his throat. He couldn't help but wonder, will Willow really fall for someone else? Will she still care about me like she did before? That answer came to him in that phone call. Her voice was as caring and thoughtful as always. No matter what he said, Willow would immediately be there for him. Makoto sighed in relief. A smile unconsciously appeared on his face, but then he realized something was off. Willow was already married. He wasn't a bad person, so how could he keep thinking about someone else's wife? He just wanted someone to talk to. He had always seen Willow as a little sister. He couldn't just say that now, that she was married to George, and he wanted to chat with his little sister and she wouldn't be allowed. There was nothing inappropriate between him and Willow. Makoto thought this to himself, so he felt justified in asking Willow to come work as an assistant at his office, hoping that his ex-wife would think he was already involved with someone. He also asked her to help design his house, erasing any trace of his ex-wife's presence. Occasionally, Makoto would ask Willow to deliver documents to his house, and they'd casually discuss the house's design details. Willow agreed, and she seriously worked on the design, but Makoto couldn't read any guilt or unease in her clear, calm eyes. It was this very attitude that made him feel uneasy. He instinctively asked Willow, "You coming here? George won't mind, right?" Willow paused for a moment, then remained silent. Makoto felt a sense of discomfort rising in him. He had a premonition that the answer would not be what he wanted. Willow said, "My anniversary with my husband is coming up. I've finished the design, and your ex-wife isn't bothering you anymore, so I guess I can quit now." Makoto's mind went blank. The days of coming and going together reminded him of the time when they were inseparable. Now, he finally realized how precious Willow's feelings for him were. Makoto didn't want to let go. Chapter 15. After learning about their divorce, Makoto was initially shocked, but soon a wave of uncontrollable pleasure surged within him. He didn't care about the reasons behind their divorce. With George gone, he could now, without hesitation, pursue Willow. They had grown up together, childhood sweethearts. Wasn't it completely normal to support each other through tough times? Willow's parents also hoped he would take better care of her. They often hinted that they preferred him over George. After all, they had grown up together. It couldn't have been more fitting. For 5 years, Makoto hadn't dared to cross that line. He had been trailing behind her, stubbornly holding onto the role of a family member. He thought Willow would eventually see him again, but her condition worsened by the day. It was as if she had lost her foundation, living like a walking corpse. Why? They had known each other for over 20 years. How long had George been with her? How could Willow like him this much? It wasn't fair to him at all. In the private room, watching her argue wildly with Anna, Makoto finally snapped. "Have I not done enough for her? Why can't she tell right from wrong?" Freya rolled her eyes, her tone full of sarcasm. "Are you trying to make yourself feel better? If it weren't for you, would they have divorced? Stop lying to yourself and don't make other people the fool." He lied to himself. Wasn't Willow the one lying to herself? For 5 years, he had humbly tried to please Willow, only to endure her humiliation. Even his ex-wife mocked him, saying, "You're no different from me." Why should he bear the blame for their failed marriage? He couldn't take it anymore. Chapter 16. The tension that had been building in Makoto's mind finally snapped with a loud crack. He kicked the table, knocking it over, then grabbed the design sketches Willow had made and tore them to pieces. Furious, he yelled, "Living like a saint while being a whore. What a joke. After all this, why are you still pretending to be pure? Are you telling me, when you found out I was married, you didn't feel anything? Are you telling me, when I invited you to be my assistant, you had no expectations? Are you telling me, when we were designing our new house, you didn't long for those moments when it was just the two of us? I don't know why you suddenly changed your attitude, but you must have wavered, right?" Makoto's words pierced through Willow's mind, each one like a needle. Her head throbbed painfully, and her stomach churned. She couldn't stop herself from bending over and gagging. Her body was so weak, she seemed to be nothing but skin and bones. Her throat felt like it was blocked with a lump of cotton. She couldn't throw up, nor could she swallow. Even breathing felt like torture. Willow slowly looked up at Makoto, with red-rimmed eyes. She spoke slowly. "Yes, I did waver, but before I could even reflect on what I had done, he had already given up on me. I don't even know when his love for me started to disappear. Do you know how terrified I was in that moment? Makoto had never seen her like this, so pitiful. He couldn't help but feel sorrow for himself. He said, "How long are you going to hold on? George is getting married to your best friend. You can't change that fact." Willow screamed hysterically. "Anna is not my best friend. She's a thief. George is my husband. He was meant to come into this world for me." Makoto raised his fist but then lowered it. He felt that Willow had lost her mind. Chapter 17. After saying it out loud, Willow became even more resolute in her thoughts. On countless sleepless nights, she kept replaying everything in her mind. Why did George suddenly transfer to her school? Why had George's family never shown up? Why, if he didn't like her, did he still force himself to get closer? Yes. Willow had seen how George liked her, so she knew very well. George hadn't liked her at first. His approach had seemed more like he was fulfilling a task. Willow had seen his helpless expression when she rejected him. She'd also seen him blushing when giving her gifts. He smiled at her, but his eyes were full of despair. At that time, Willow didn't understand. Curiosity was the beginning of her downfall. She hadn't expected to actually fall for George. When did George really start liking her? Was it when she said, "Just be yourself, I really like you"? Willow loved the real him. That day, George had held her tightly, constantly repeating "thank you" over and over. As if she had saved his life, Willow's eyelid twitched. Whenever she tried to think about George's background, her mind became clouded, and she lost her sense of direction. Her sixth sense told her to confirm her suspicions. There was only one way. Willow lay down in a bathtub full of water. The sharp knife reflected her bloodshot eyes. But at that moment, she appeared vibrant, full of excitement. Without hesitation, Willow cut her wrist. A large amount of blood spread through the water. As she neared death, a barely audible sigh echoed in her mind. If I had known this would happen, why did I even try in the first place? Chapter 18. The day before the wedding, I went to check on the venue setup. As I stepped out of the elevator, I suddenly felt a sense of unease. I was about to call Anna to tell her to be careful, when the elevator dinged, signaling it had arrived. I looked up, and 3 men wearing masks blocked the doorway. In the next second, they lunged at me, and the air around me was filled with a strong, irritating smell. Everything went black, and I lost consciousness. I woke up with a pounding headache. The first thing I saw was an unfamiliar ceiling. A sound of a door opening followed. I sighed silently. A clear, cheerful voice came from the door. "Are you awake? Are you hungry? I'll make you your favorite omelette rice." The familiar voice made me momentarily disoriented. The sound of chains rattling brought me back to reality. I looked down to see heavy shackles locking my hands and feet, as if I were a prisoner. I sighed, unable to understand how Willow had become a Yandere. I said, "Willow, people's feelings change. I don't like omelette rice anymore." She looked terribly thin. Her eyes, usually filled with a gentle smile like spring water, were now hollow and sickly. Willow paused for just a moment, then curved her lips into a smile. "It's okay. I'll make whatever you want to eat." A wave of exhaustion washed over me. How did we go from parting on good terms to this? I asked. "What do you want to do?" Willow's voice was light. She said, "I just want my husband to come home." I frowned, sensing something was very wrong with her state. I said, "How long do you think you can keep me here? The groom has gone missing. Won't they call the police?" "Willow, it's not too late to turn back now." We stared at each other across the space. Willow suddenly smiled. She said, "Honey, everything in this world is fake, but you are real. No one can find us." She walked closer, sat down on the floor with her knees hugged to her chest, and looked up at me. Her eyes sparkled with a longing and hopeful smile. She said, "We will love each other and stay together here forever." My heart nearly stopped. It took me a long time to find my voice again. I asked, "What did you find out?" Chapter 19. Willow didn't answer me, and just as she had said, it had been half a month. No one had found this place. The confusion in my heart grew heavier. With the advanced surveillance systems in place, there was no way they couldn't find a clue after so many days. Unless there was a force beyond this world interfering, could the system have malfunctioned again? Willow, like a patient who had regained hope, returned to her usual light-hearted self. Every day, she would excitedly push me around the house in a wheelchair. She said, "Look here, this is the study I designed for you. When you're tired from work, you can lie down in the rocking chair and rest. Here, this is the entertainment area. We can play chess or cards here in our spare time." She said, "This is the open kitchen. Didn't we always think the kitchen was too small for 2 people before? Now, it won't be a problem." I paused for a moment, realizing her intent. Willow was making amends. This was the new wedding home she had designed for us. I found it absurd. I asked, "Don't you think it's too late?" Willow paused. She said, It's not too late. We still have a lot of time. I looked at her, my tone calm as I said, I don't like you. No matter what you do, I won't like you. Even if you keep me trapped here. In the end, all you'll have is a corpse. As soon as the words left my mouth, a cool tear dropped onto the back of my hand. Willow was crying. In her eyes, I saw my own increasingly weak reflection. The false mask she wore shattered, revealing immense fear and confusion. She choked on her words. What should I do? What should I do to get you back? I shook my head. Let go. We are just strangers passing through each other's lives. There's no need to pay such a high price. But Willow shook her head violently. I won't. I've already felt the price of letting go once. George, to me, you are a home. You are oxygen. You are like tap water. I once thought you were just a part of everyday life, but now I realize, losing you, I can't live without you. The swirling, complex emotions within her were ultimately replaced by resolve. She raised her hand and wiped away the tears from the corner of her eye. She said, I won't make the same mistake again. Chapter 20. I began making demands of Willow. To my surprise, she was overjoyed. I said I didn't like sitting in a wheelchair. So she unlocked my shackles. But since there were supernatural forces at play, I couldn't recklessly confront her. The apartment was on the 5th floor, and she had locked the door with a high-security anti-theft system, making it impossible to break in by force. So, she was confident that, no matter how much I wanted to leave, I was helpless in my current situation. Unfortunately, Willow's impression of me was still frozen in time. 5 years ago, after she left the house again, I went to the storage room. There, I found a window that could be pried open. The wall had enough footholds for a climber. Halfway up, I suddenly heard a loud rumbling sound from the ground below. Then the ground began to shake. I watched in horror as the wall cracked open. It was an earthquake. Suddenly, I heard the familiar mechanical voice in my head again. Host, please follow my instructions to evacuate the danger zone. I didn't have time to be shocked. I just followed the instructions. I didn't know how long I had been running, but I suddenly heard sirens. They were heading towards the building. After I stopped them, I found out that the building had collapsed. Anna and Willow had stayed behind to save me, and they were both buried in the rubble, their fates unknown. I stumbled behind the rescue team to the site. Someone urgently gestured something to me, but I couldn't hear a single word. The system said, Host, stay calm. They're still alive. I suddenly snapped back to reality. Right, there was the system, and it could save Anna. It seemed to know what I was thinking. It said, saving them doesn't come without a price. You have two choices. Option 1, save Willow. The conquest task succeeds, and you survive. Option 2, save Anna. The conquest task fails, and you die. Your existence will be erased. Sorry, host. The interests of the conquest target come first. I didn't hesitate for a second. I said, I want to save Anna. The system hesitated for a second. It asked, do you know why I chose to bind with you in the first place? Because your will to survive is strong. You refuse to die so easily. But now, you're willing to give up your life for an insignificant bystander. George, have you lost your mind? I was surprised to hear a fluctuation of emotion in its mechanical voice. I chuckled softly, my tone calm. I said, what do you know? Chapter 21. I've had a congenital illness since childhood. I couldn't jump, couldn't run. Even walking a few extra steps would leave me breathless. While the other children played wildly, I could only read or play chess. Although I often had to take sick leave, I still liked going to school. There was a youthful energy there, something unique to my age. Unlike the dead, sterile ceiling of the hospital, the other kids were friendly to me. They privately called me young master. They admired my good family background, praised my manners, and said I was kind to others, but that was all. They would push and shove each other, but always acted cautious in front of me, afraid they'd hurt me. I had no friends. No one would be my friend. As my health continued to decline, I had to drop out of school and move into the hospital. Apart from taking medicine and undergoing tests, the most I could do was sit in a wheelchair and watch the dying tree outside my window. My parents visited me less and less. They had a new child. It was supposed to be a happy thing, but it only made me feel lonelier. Finally, after the last leaf fell from that tree, I slowly closed my eyes. The tree could wait for its rebirth next year, but I would never see the spring of my 17th year. Chapter 22. I was already dead in my original world. Even if I succeeded in my conquest, I couldn't go home. I had already accepted the gift of fate, marrying Willow and living a simple, quiet life. It was their detachment that gave me new inspiration. I didn't want to just get by anymore. I wanted to live a completely different life from before. I wanted to love someone with all my heart and also be loved back with all of theirs. Fortunately, I got both. I said, what do you know? I told the system. From the moment I closed my eyes, I was already dead. Coming to this world, no matter how long I live, is a bonus. Anna is not just some insignificant passerby. She is my lover, my wife. If I can save her, I've won. As soon as I finished speaking, a light appeared in the distance. It was the location where Anna was. I shouted to the rescue team. I heard her voice. While running, my knee was scraped by rebar, and my legs were cut by debris. The pain didn't slow me down in the slightest. I had to get to her in time. When the rescue team and I finally moved the debris off of her, Anna's hoarse voice also came out. She was calling my name. Luckily, she only had some scrapes and bruises. I breathed a sigh of relief and rushed to hold her tightly. I said, "Anna, I'm fine, relax." Hearing my voice, she finally relaxed. Her voice trembled as she said, "Honey." My fingers traced her beautiful brows and eyes carefully. As I smiled, tears began to fall. I said, "Wife, let's go home." I steadily picked Anna up in my arms. The long period of darkness finally cleared at that moment. She nodded and said, "Okay, let's go home." Chapter 23. Willow. You've lost the bet. Willow discovered the secret of this world. To prevent her from committing suicide, the system reluctantly made a deal with her. They made a bet. 1 month later, Willow would have to make George choose to save her at the moment of life and death. After all, to survive, he had once completed the conquest task even though he didn't like her. This time, it would be the same. Willow was confident, but she was wrong. The system made her hear the full conversation. He would rather give up his life than save her. He would save Anna. Willow's pupils trembled violently. At the same time, a dull pain spread across her chest. Why did Anna deserve such precious feelings? She had come first. After all, George had come to this world for her. Willow's unwillingness turned into a tear at the corner of her eye. The system was merciless. According to the bet, your protagonist aura will be revoked, and your life and death will no longer affect the world's operation. George had already completed the conquest task. No matter what he chose, he would not be erased. But his resolve still shook the system. As compensation for deceiving him, he and Anna would live a smooth, trouble-free life for the rest of their days. The moment Willow's protagonist aura disappeared, a stone slab fell down. This also attracted the attention of the rescue team. She was seriously injured, fell into a coma, and was rushed to the hospital. In the final second before losing consciousness, she thought, if I had a second chance, would the outcome be different? Chapter 24. Willow woke up in the hospital, but the people here seemed unable to see her. She could only drift around like a lost soul. Suddenly, her gaze was fixed on something, and she couldn't look away. The person sitting in the wheelchair had a pale face, like paper. He weakly stared at the withered tree outside the window. His thoughts unknown, Willow held her breath and slowly approached him. He slowly met her gaze. He glanced at the woman sitting nearby, watching over him, and asked, "Can't she see you?" Willow tried to calm her emotions. She nodded and said, "They can't see me." George sighed in relief. His fingers slightly clenched. His voice was raspy as he said, "Are you here to take me away?" Willow froze for a moment, then replied, "That shouldn't be it." George let out a breath of relief and gave her a faint, relieved smile. He said, "Thank you." In the days that followed, they became friends. They would chat happily, but then George suddenly stopped talking. Willow saw envy and longing on his face. She turned and saw a paragliding advertisement playing on the TV. A person was soaring freely through the sky, arms outstretched. It was something Makoto would like. But George, she suddenly froze. George suddenly looked at her, his tone filled with longing as he said, "Do you think there's a next life? If there is, I want to try paragliding." Willow felt like she had been slapped across the face. A sour, painful feeling spread throughout her body. She could barely breathe. So, his love for her had started to fade from that moment. George had said he didn't like the wheelchair. George had said he liked to run. George had said he liked climbing mountains. George had said he wanted to try paragliding. And what had she done? If, back then, she had said she wanted to go with him, would he have always loved her? George waved his hand in front of her face. With a puzzled look, he asked, "Are you okay?" Willow slowly looked at him. Her voice hoarse and dry. She choked as she said, "Yes, in your next life, you'll have a healthy body, meet a girl who shares your interests, and you'll be happy together for a lifetime." George smiled awkwardly. After that day, his condition rapidly deteriorated. In the operating room, the doctors shook their heads helplessly. Out of the corner of his eye, George looked towards a certain spot, as if he had something to say. Willow bent down to listen. He was too weak to speak aloud, his voice barely audible. George asked, "Willow, will that person be you?" Willow froze. She remembered the system's words before she had passed out. The system had said, "How do you know we haven't given you a chance to start over?" Her throat caught, and her vision blurred as she desperately nodded. George smiled and slowly closed his eyes. At the same time, A mechanical voice echoed in his mind. Hello, host. The Conquest System 003 is at your service. Your task target this time is Willow. At that moment, in the ICU room, the heart monitor emitted a sharp beeping sound. A tear slid down the corner of Willow's eye. His heartbeat gradually stopped.